Hi everyone, I'm Storm Phillips, and welcome to this edition of 47 Hours. Tonight, a story of a couple who say they're going to have a family so large it will, quote, outnumber the stars in the sky. For a man and wife who seem to be pretty intelligent and logical individuals, that seems to be a pretty far-fetched claim. Is it unrealistic? Is it even medically possible? Stacy has more on the story on location.
Thanks, Storm. We are live outside the home of Abe and Sarah Goldstein, an elderly couple who live a modest life here in the Midwest. It is just the two of them, although they do have a guest home in the backyard where Sarah's assistant lives with her son. It seems, Storm, that there may be a little history with this, as the son bears a very strong resemblance to Mr. Goldstein. Where it gets interesting, Storm, is when we learn that Sarah is 90 years old and her husband Abe is 99. We were able to talk with Abe earlier in an exclusive interview to learn how all of this came about.
It all started about 25 years ago, so it did, back when Sarah and we lived in Cairo. God came to me and He told me to pack my bags and my family and move to a new land. And when God talks, we listen, so we do. So off we went. Years later, God visited me again, this time in a vision. He told me that my descendants would outnumber the very stars in the sky. So they would. Years later, God visited me again. And then He promised me that my heir would be my very own biological son.
Interesting. So what I'm hearing you say is this heir, as you call it, will be your biological son, not necessarily Sarah's biological son. Which brings me to an interesting observation. When we were outside earlier, I believe I overheard your wife's assistant's son refer to you as Daddy. How do you explain that?
We'll have to go into that in another interview, Stacy. I've got T-ball in about an hour.
We'll move on then. So, what makes you think that this son will come from Sarah?
Because God came back again. Just last week. It was then that He told me that my son would come from Sarah's own body.
And how did you react to that?
I fell flat on my face and I started laughing uncontrollably, naturally. I couldn't help it. It just seemed ridiculous. Of course, God didn't see the humor in the situation quite like I did, so I directly got up and I ran to Sarah to tell her. And now here we are today. Or just wait.
Well, for those details, Stacy, it looks like we may be in for a very long wait. Did you have a chance to talk to any neighbors of the Goldsteins who may be able to talk about their reputation?
Yes, Storm, we were able to interview some of the neighbors. In fact, I'm here with Mrs. Smith right now, who lives across the street from the Goldsteins. Mrs. Smith, what is your take on what's going on here?
Well, they seemed like normal, well-rounded people, but then I came home one day and Abe was out in the front yard talking to one of our other neighbors, telling him that Sarah's going to have a baby. I thought obviously they're planning on adopting, although they're pretty old even for that. But no, he claims that she is going to physically give birth to this child. Cuckoo.
What is it that you think about the craziness going on in your own backyard?
That silly old coot. Why, his wife ain't even pregnant. Ain't likely to get that way either. Her biological clock's been running without batteries for darn near 45 years.
As you can see, Storm, there are lots of doubts as to the credibility of this story. As it is right now, the neighborhood, Abe and Sarah, and the rest of us have no choice but to sit and wait. This is Stacy Harper reporting live from the Heartland.
Thank you, Stacy, and great job on that story. Well, that concludes this edition of 47 Hours. Thanks for watching. We will, of course, keep you updated on this story as it continues to unfold. Have a great night.